Hey everybody, Eric here with a random video. No book review or reading remembrances. Today I want to talk about Max Booth III and some of the projects, some of the things that he's involved in. I'm gonna talk a little bit first about some history, not ancient history, recent history, and then I got a whole stack of books here that you're gonna get to see. Uh, but Max Booth III, he's an author, he's a publisher, he's a podcaster, and uh, back in February 2019, I think, he had a book published by Fangoria, Carnivorous Lunar Activities. And this was the first time I'd ever heard of him. I saw this book on Amazon, and I put it on my wish list. Uh, I just found it because it was published by Fangoria. I didn't know who this Max Booth III was, and it's been sitting there in Amazon in my wish list for over a year and a half now, I suppose it is. And I every once in a while when I go on Amazon and I'm buying something, I go through my wish list because I can't remember everything that's ever caught my eye, and I'll grab some things from my wish list to add to whatever new book I'm getting. But I did not pick up Carnivorous Lunar Activities. Fast forward to just a few months ago, maybe a little more than that. I was listening to Brian Keene's podcast, The Horror Show with Brian Keene, and his guest was Max Booth III. And Max was charming and funny, and he was talking about his podcast and his writing and all these other things. And one of the cool things right off the bat was that he told people not to buy Carnivorous Lunar Activities because of controversy surrounding Fangoria and its parent company. I don't know if that's the proper term, Cinestate. So I thought that was kind of cool for an author to say, don't buy my book, because you would be supporting this company that he no longer supports himself. And it's too bad because right now I don't think there's any way to get the book. I don't think he's gotten the rights back. I haven't heard anything about that. So unless I find it on the secondary market, I'm not going to be able to get the book. Hopefully someday it'll be available, or I'll stumble across it. But I thought that was cool that he said, don't buy my book. And as I said, he was funny, and the things he had to say were pretty interesting. So the first thing I did was find his podcast, Ghoulish, download a bunch of episodes. Whenever I find a new podcast, I'll go all the way back to their first episode, typically, and just start listening from there. And since that time, I have listened to every episode of Ghoulish. The first episode, his guest was Brian Keene. It was incredibly funny. I won't go into why it was so funny. You should listen to it yourself. And I will put, hopefully there'll be links either at the end of the video or in the description below for a bunch of different things. Not everything I'm going to talk about, but at least the podcast and his publishing company, which we'll get to in a minute. But anyway, so I was listening to Ghoulish, very funny, and as I've said, Max is very funny. He's charming, and I have to look at my phone here just to give you an idea. Ghoulish is a podcast of creepy things, and it covers all sorts of different topics. I think Max will find someone he wants as a guest, ask them what they want to talk about, and just as an idea, episode 3, he talks about old spooky cartoons with Betty Rocksteady, who is a writer and an artist, one of my favorite guests on Ghoulish and his other podcast, Castle Rock Radio, which again we'll get to shortly. Let's see, live readings with Josh Mallerman. That was a really fun one. I mean, they're all very, very interesting in my opinion, but I'm just giving you an idea of what they talk about and the kind of guests he has. I'm just going through here. Slashers with Stephen Graham Jones. I think I mentioned this in my review for The Only Good Indians, the Stephen Graham Jones book. Let's see. What else have we got here? Excuse me. Nightworms with Sadie Hartman. Sadie Hartman is Mother Horror. And she has a company, Nightworms, that puts out I think it's a monthly book box, horror book box. Unfortunately, I've never been able to get my hands on one because it seems they sell out really quickly. I think you can get a subscription, but if you're trying to get an individual box, you got to be quick about it. She's really funny. She's been on the podcast a few times. I feel like she and Max Booth have a great rapport. So I enjoy it when she's on there. Vampires with Grady Hendrix. And there's another Betty Rocksteady. Drive-ins with Joe R. Lansdale. Max has said a number of times that Lansdale is his favorite author, so I'm sure he was ecstatic to have Joe R. Lansdale on as a guest. Lansdale's one of my favorite authors as well. Did I say artist? Authors. He's one of my favorite authors as well. Josh Mallerman again. Let's see. Poison with Caitlin Starling. I was supposed to be talking about like the different subjects. So Paul Tremblay talking about rabies. The Halloween franchise with somebody. Talking about The Living Dead with Daniel Kraus, who wrote the book The Living Dead with George Romero. Finished a George Romero book that was unfinished when Mr. Romero passed away. Talks about David Cronenberg, sleep paralysis, time travel, alternate reality, koalas, all sorts of different topics, all tied into spookiness in some way. And it's just really fun. Max has the kind of twisted sense of humor that I have. And so right off the bat, I recommend Ghoulish. So I started listening to Ghoulish, obviously, and that led me into checking out why do I always want to say that? Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing, which is a publishing company from Max Booth III and Laurie Michelle. And they put out all sorts of books, and they have a quarterly magazine, Dark Moon Digest. I should have grabbed those. I'm not going to get up to grab them. I have the 3 most recent issues. I've read one of them so far. It's short stories, nonfiction. Really good magazine. If you support them on Patreon at the $1 level, and this is just like an ad for Max Booth III stuff. The $1 level, you get a digital copy, basically a digital subscription of Dark Moon Digest. At the $7 level, you get a physical subscription. Once I get the chance to support them on Patreon, that's the level I'm going with. So I started checking out their stuff and picking up things from Perpetual Motion Machine. But before I did that, I'm out of order here. I just jumped right in and ordered some Max Booth III books. Two of the things he talked about on the Horror Show with Brian Keene was he had 2 new books out, a novella and a novel. And so I ordered 2 of these books. I ordered them from Amazon. And I already read and reviewed on here. We Need to Do Something. Max Booth III from Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing. You can check out my review. I doubt I'll have a direct link for that in here because I want to link a bunch of other different stuff. But it shouldn't be too difficult to find if you're on my channel. Really great book. So this is the first thing I ever read from Max Booth III, and I was blown away. Gave it a 4 or a 5, at least a 4 on Goodreads. It's about a family trapped in a bathroom after a tornado. Really great. Fantastic. Where am I going to put these? I need to stack them somewhere so they don't fall apart. At the same time, or actually just shortly after, there's Touch the Night. This is the paperback. It was published by Perpetual Motion Machine. I love that cover. But there's I think it's a limited edition hardcover from Cemetery Dance. I have not read this one yet. It's much thicker, but I'm definitely looking forward to jumping into this one. So I grabbed both of these books right after listening to the Brian Keene podcast. And after I had read We Need to Do Something, I went on Amazon and grabbed The Nightly Disease, which is another thick one. Another one by Perpetual Motion Machine. I believe this is the one. There's a whole story behind this. It was originally picked up by a publisher, I don't remember which one, who immediately, or within 6 months, went out of business. So Max Booth had to get the rights back and publish it himself. And I'm looking forward to this one. It's about shenanigans in a hotel, and Max has spent, I don't know how many years, working the night shift at a hotel. He actually just recently quit that job, but definitely looking forward to reading this. So those are the 3 Max Booth III books I have. That I bought them all really well. I ordered the first 2 at the same time and then immediately ordered the other one after reading We Need to Do Something. So right off the bat, fantastic writer, I'm assuming, based on one book. I doubt it's a fluke. Excuse me a moment, my throat is a little dry, so I'm going to have some Mountain Dew. Since I don't edit these things, you're going to have to live with that. So, after becoming addicted to listening to Ghoulish and picking up some Max Booth III books, I started listening to his other podcast, Castle Rock Radio. It's hosted by Max Booth and Laurie Michelle, and it's dedicated to Stephen King. They talk about just about anything related to Stephen King, but basically what they do is read a Stephen King short story or novel and then break it down and discuss it. So each episode is dedicated to, let's say, the most recent one I listened to was The Jaunt. So they both read The Jaunt, and then they break it down, they talk about it, what they like, what they don't like, lots of crazy jokes. They're one of their Facebook group for Castle Rock Radio is something like Castle Rock Radio, a podcast about Stephen King, dick jokes, or a podcast for fans, fans of Stephen King, dick jokes, and podcasts, something like that. Anyway, so there's a lot of dick jokes on this podcast. But they'll also talk about movie adaptations of Stephen King's work. They had an episode where they kind of went through the Stephen King quiz book, not the entire thing, just spent about an hour just flipping through, answering questions, trying to answer questions. They actually just had, I want to say recently, but I'm really far behind on the Castle Rock Radio podcast. So for me, it was recently. They interviewed the author of that book because he had a book that had come out, Stephen King, American Master. So they talked about that book and his scholarly Stephen King stuff. I don't know how else to put it. I don't want to call him an expert. I don't want to say he has a relationship with Stephen King, because I think he said he spoke to him once and has never met him. But anyway, so they had an interview with that guy, and they, so far, I'd say 50% of the time, they have a guest on who also obviously has read that book or short story or seen the movie, and they talk about it. And again, very entertaining. I've only ever skipped so far one episode because they're talking about a Joe Hill story. And even though a lot of the Stephen King stuff, even if I haven't read it, I'll listen to the episode. Like, I've never read The Dark Half, but I listened to that episode. But for some reason, I didn't want to listen to the Joe Hill episode for a story I have not read yet. I don't know why. But anyway, so it's, again, a lot of fun. If you're a Stephen King fan, I think it's great to listen to. I'm slowly catching up. I listen to 4 or 5 episodes a day at work, which is where I listen to my podcasts. And So there's that as well. So you got Ghoulish, you got Castle Rock Radio. He might be doing other stuff. I don't know. So let's see. This is very disorganized. We're going to get into some books now. Listening to Ghoulish with all these different authors has inspired me to buy certain books. So, right off the bat, we're going to jump in with these two. I've reviewed both of these, and these are things that would have caught my eye anyway if I knew of their existence, if they had popped up on Amazon. But hearing about them, hearing the authors talk on Ghoulish, had me go on Amazon and look specifically for these. So the first of these, Soul Survivor by Zachary Ashford, part of the Rewind or Die series, which had already caught my eye. I was planning on buying Rewind or Die books, but listening to Zachary Ashford talk about this, I immediately, like I said, I listened at work, rushed home, went to Amazon, ordered this book. You can check out my review. Again, I won't have a link because that's way too many links. A lot of fun. Killer koalas with a Survivor TV show type situation going on, and weird killer koala bears. So, a lot of fun. Great creature feature B-movie kind of stuff, which is the Rewind or Die series is B-movie type stories. Put that over there. And then Lisa Quigley was on the podcast at some point, and so I bought Hell's Bells, another one that I have reviewed, another part of the Rewind or Die series, and this is a satanic panic type of story, and I grew up in the middle of the 80s satanic panic stuff, and I love reading about that. I love reading nonfiction about it. I love reading stories that are set in that sort of that era and deal with that sort of thing, and this is a really fun one. So just a couple of books. Again, I plan on getting all the not Hell's Bells, the Rewind or Die books, but I absolutely grabbed those two specifically because I heard the authors on the Ghoulish podcast. Let's see, we're going to skip these two for a moment, and we will look at these three. So, let's see. All right. Another one that was on my wish list at Amazon, but after hearing a little bit of discussion about it on Ghoulish, I grabbed The Pale White by Chad Lutsky. I think that's how you say his name. And mainly I picked this up because I didn't, even though having read the back of the book, I knew what it was about. I'd heard some good things about it. But I found out that it was inspired by a story in Cleveland, and I'm in Ohio, very close to Cleveland. But there was some time ago, not that long ago, a woman escaped from a house, and this story broke that this guy had 3 women being held captive in his house, and I think one of them gave birth, and so this child was growing up in that house, something like that. I don't remember all the details, but like I said, this was on my wish list, but as soon as I found out that true story was the inspiration for it, and I heard about it on Ghoulish, I grabbed this book. And I have read it, and a review will be going up in the next few weeks, I believe. So, and love that cover. Very nice. So there we go. And then I grabbed this one, The Perfectly Fine House by Stephen Kozaniewski and Weil E. Young. I've read Stephen Kozaniewski, big fan. I think, as a matter of fact, I know I reviewed one of his books back before my long hiatus, and I have a bunch of his other books I haven't gotten to yet. Weil E. Young, I just recently reviewed his splatter western, The Magpie Coffin. And again, so one on my radar. This is from Grindhouse, which is an Ohio publisher, and so I like to support them as well. But there was a lot of talk about this, I think they were they both on Ghoulish, or maybe they were on the, I don't know. They were on something. Could have been the horror show. Getting all my podcasts mixed up. But anyway, decided to pick this up. Again, it had been on my radar, but I was inspired by the podcast to grab that one. Then, let's see what we have. We've got Spook by Mary Roach. This is Science Tackles the Afterlife. This is nonfiction. And in the episode, which one was it? It's right there. Poison with Caitlin Starling. They talk about Mary Roach in that episode. And she's got these sort of science tackles, or the science of kind of books. There's one called Stiff, which is about the science of corpses, I think. One called, I don't remember what it's called, but there's one about the science of sex. There's one about the science of warfare, something like that. But anyway, decided to give this a try. Let's see. Oh, this says, let's see. Oh, it just says the author of Stiff. I'm sure oh, here we go. So Gulp, Adventures on the Alimentary Canal, Packing for Mars, The Curious Life. All right. Packing for Mars, The Curious Science of Life in the Void. Bonk, The Curious Coupling of Science and Sex. And then Stiff, The Curious Lives of Human Cadavers. So there you go. And then Grunt is the one about soldiers and warfare, or whatever. But yeah, so absolutely hearing about this on the Ghoulish podcast, I decided to check these out. I was at Barnes & Noble, and at our local Barnes & Noble, if you take the escalator down, it leads right into the science section. And so anytime I come down from the escalator, I just stop and I look at all the different science books. I like science and pop culture kind of stuff. And these happened to be right there, right at the bottom of the escalator on the shelf. And this is the one. There were 3 or 4 of them, of the different titles, but I decided to grab this one. Have not read it yet. And apparently, Mary Roach is going to be a guest on Ghoulish coming up shortly. So there's just some books that I was inspired to pick up simply because of the things I heard on the Ghoulish podcast. So either Max Booth III is very influential, or I am just easily influenced. So now there's a couple other things. We're going to wait for a second on those. I picked up The Girl in the Video by Michael David Wilson. This is another Perpetual Motion Machine book. I've reviewed this one. Absolutely loved it. Definitely want to read more by this author. Love that cover, so bright and colorful. You can check out the review. I'm not going to put a link again. Too many links. But one that I picked up because of the Ghoulish podcast. Now, this one I did not pick up because of the Ghoulish podcast, only indirectly, because at this point, I'm just going to Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing's webpage and looking at their catalog and picking up books. And so, having read Full Brutal by Christopher Triana, again, reviewed it. You can find the video and look at it. On the PMMP webpage, I found The Detained by Christopher Triana. I have read this and will be doing a review sometime in the next week or so. So I'm not going to go too much into that. But again, at this point, I'm just going to the PMMP website, going through their catalog of books, and buying stuff. And I could buy all this on Amazon and get it more quickly, because it does take a while for the stuff directly from PMMP. It takes a while for that stuff to ship and to get here. But when I can, I like to directly support small press publishers. I will wait for the stuff I've ordered if I can cut out the middleman. And I think that way, I think the publishers, the authors, I don't know if the authors get more money. I assume they have a contract and they just get what they get. So maybe it's just the publisher who gets more money, and hopefully they're putting it back into their business, after they've fed themselves and paid their bills and stuff. But it definitely takes longer. I'm still waiting for something I ordered. They have some anthologies at Perpetual Motion Machine, and one of them is called Tales from the Crust. I think that's what it's called. It's an anthology of pizza horror, and Max Booth insists it is not funny. These are straight up horror stories. They just happen to be centered around pizza. And I was on the website. I was actually going to order a number of books, but I saw the special delivery edition of Tales from the Crust and had to have it. I don't buy special editions much anymore, but I fell for the marketing, because if you get just the regular paperback, it's typical paperback size, I assume. But the edition that I ordered, that I'm still patiently waiting for, the book is hardback, and I believe it says it's 8.5 by 8.5. It comes in a pizza box, and it comes with a pizza cutter, a pen, a coaster, I think a sticker and a keychain, something like that. But I just couldn't resist having the square book in the pizza box. I like that kind of thing. But I did order that about 3 weeks ago. Still waiting for it. But again, Actually, I'm not sure if something like that I could get anywhere else but directly from the publisher. But I'd still rather order it directly from the publisher. I'm trying to do that more and more when it comes to small presses. I showed you a Grindhouse book, and I've got quite a few recent things from Grindhouse. I'm actually waiting for a new one. And I could get them from Amazon, but I'm going to order them from Grindhouse. All right, let's see. I talked about Castle Rock Radio. I talked about the Ghoulish podcast. I've shown you some of the things I've picked up, inspired by Max Booth III. And now, two more items I have here. And this is kind of the reason I'm doing this right now. Excuse me. So one of the books I picked up, completely because it was talked about on Ghoulish by Max Booth III, is this book, Camp Ghoul Mountain Part 6, the official novelization by Jonathan Robb. Look at that amazing cover. This is from Turn to Ash. And this, I'm not going to get too much into it because shortly after I finish recording this, I am going to record my review for this book. It should be up on Monday. This is Saturday. What's the date? September 26th is when I'm recording this. So Monday, September 28th is when the review for this should go up. But I picked this up and completely because of listening to the Ghoulish podcast. And spoilers, loved it. Still, you need to watch this review because, man, gonna get into some stuff with this book. But yeah, so grabbed this thanks to Max Booth III and his podcast. I finished this morning and did not know, I'm going to toss that over there, did not know what I was going to read next. This is my Sophie's choice. Every time I finish a book, almost every time I finish a book, I can't decide what to read next. I have so many unread books. And I am doing the F. Paul Wilson Secret History of the World series thing that I'm doing, so I could always just jump into that and read the next one of those. But I like to cleanse my palate in between. So, wasn't sure what I was going to read, and what should arrive in the mail today but Stand Alone by Paul Michael Anderson from Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing. So yes, this is absolutely the book I am reading. Even though there's a bookmark in here, I haven't actually started it yet. I just throw my bookmark into the middle till I get into it. I've been looking forward to this. I pre-ordered this. The first 350 copies sold come with some special stuff. I don't know if there are any left or if they've met that threshold yet. One of the things it came with was a signed book. Don't want to flash that too quickly, I don't want anyone copying the author's signature, but a signed book plate that you can stick in your book. So now my book is autographed. So got this. Again, pre-ordered it directly from Perpetual Motion Machine. And so I've got this book. Going to be digging into it tonight before I go to bed. Sometime after I record all the videos I'm going to record today. Going to dig into this one. But it came with that book plate, as well as just a couple of stickers. Castle Rock Radio and Ghoulish. Two of my favorite podcasts now. Listen to them all the time. But the best part. Oh, and there's a bookmark. I threw that in the drawer with the rest of my bookmarks, so you don't get to see that. But the best part, the main reason I pre-ordered this book, wanted to be one of the 350 people, is a set of 6 trading cards. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see these, but I'm going to show you. You've got the Jersey Devil. I know there's some reflection and stuff. I don't know how clear it is. So you've got pictures on the front. You've got information on the back. So just to give you an idea, I'm just going to read this one. I'm not going to read all of them, but I will show you all. So this says, on the back, it says Jersey Devil. Bio. The Jersey Devil used to be human, used to be one of the nation's homeless, until upper-class teens looking for a good time beat the man nearly to death and dumped his body near a toxic dump site in the New Jersey Pine Barrens. Mutated and healed, the devil now stalks the area for anyone foolish enough to come alone. And then it says, appeared in Night of the Demon 1 through 7, 1984, 85, 87, 88, 89, 91, and 94. So these are movies that he has appeared in. And then trivia. Famed special effects legend Tom Savini was initially hired to develop the Jersey Devil look, but left the project over financing delays. His sketches, owned by the Belt? I'm not sure. My eyesight isn't good enough. Belt Films were then used by the prop department. Savini never worked with Belt Films again due to this. I think that's what it says. Belt? I don't know. So anyway, so you've got the Jersey Devil. So they all have that. It gives you a little bio, what movies they appeared in, kill counts, and such. Did I give you the kill count? 63 for the Jersey Devil. Then we have the Gatekeeper. Scarecrow. Always love a good killer Scarecrow. The Puritan. Pretty cool looking. Similar to the Scarecrow, I think. It's the hat. Cameron Burns. He's a human dude. Or is he? And Dean Foley. And it's fun to read all the little bios. And it's nice. You just get this little... You know, you're not paying any extra for the book, but if you're one of those lucky 350 people, you just get a little something extra. And it's nice to see a small press do that sort of thing. I really believe, obviously, I've said it before, I believe in supporting the small press, and I really want to support people that are going to go this extra mile and give you this extra content. So that's all the books I have to show you. I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. I just wanted to talk about Max Booth III and his podcasts and his publishing company. And, you know, he appears on other people's podcasts, and he may be doing other things that I don't even know about. He's still writing and just doing his thing. And I'm a huge fan. Just a big, big fan of the man. At least that I know of. I mean, I've never met the guy. I don't think that he's putting on a persona for his podcasts. But, I mean, he just seems like a really great guy. He's definitely a very funny person. Seems very charming, very smart, and he's a great writer so far, based on the one book of his that I've read. But I'm going to stick with that since I've already spent money on his other books. Has pretty good taste in publishing. There's a ton of stuff I want to get from Permuted. Why? Perpetual Motion Machine. Permuted is an old publisher. I think I have some of their stuff, but I don't think they're around anymore. But anyway, Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing. So, and recently, Max Booth III just released a short film that he made. I think he put it up on YouTube. I got to see it. It was a lot of fun. So, somewhere, either on the screen, here at the end, or down in the description below, I plan on having links for that short film, for the Ghoulish podcast, which is also on YouTube. I don't think there's any video. I think it's just one of those audio things. Since I listen to it at work off of my phone, I download them onto my phone. I haven't watched any on YouTube. I know some podcasts do a video element. So a link to the short film, a link to the Ghoulish podcast, a link to Castle Rock Radio podcast, a link to Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing. Although technically, if you just go to the Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing link, that should give you links to everything else that I'm going to have. So that's 4 things for links. I don't know that I'm going to throw any others in there. That should cover all you need to know. And I just want to say to Max Booth III, I am not Annie Wilkes. If you ever are driving through Ohio and crash in a snowstorm and I save your life, I will not break your legs. I don't know. I just, this almost seems like a, does it seem like an obsessive fan kind of video? I mean, when you read the title, which I assume you already did if you clicked on this link, that could sound a little obsessive. But it's more about supporting the things that I love, and I love small press publishers who put out high quality stuff, and that's what Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing is doing. And the podcasts are so entertaining. Like I said, I can listen to 5 or 6 depending on the length, because I only work sometimes it's an 8-hour workday, sometimes it's an 11-hour workday. So I listen to 4 or 5 or 6 or more episodes of Castle Rock Radio every day at work, and I will until I catch up, because there's a whole bunch that I haven't heard. I have listened to all the Ghoulish, so with Ghoulish, I'm just waiting for the new episodes to download. So yeah, I recommend. If you can't spend the money on a bunch of books, at least listen to the podcasts. That doesn't cost you anything. But I do recommend the books. And as I said, there's 3 in this pile that I'm going to be recording reviews for tonight. So those will churn out in the next week or so. All right, that's all I got. I've rambled. I think I covered everything I wanted to talk about. So that's it. Again, this is one of those kind of random videos that I'm going to post this as soon as I finish recording it, because I don't want to disrupt my normal posting schedule. I don't know how much that matters, but I'm sticking to it. My regular schedule, so these random videos just go up whenever I do them, whenever I decide. All right, that's it. I'm Eric Smith. I've been talking about Max Booth III and all of his, some of his, because I don't know all of his ventures. All right, until next time, read more books. Now, the video's done, but do I need to put 10 or 15 extra seconds of material so that you can watch the entire video before you click on the links that are going to be up on the screen? I don't know. That's why I'm just kind of talking here. So you have time to have watched the entire video, and then you can click on the links. I don't know what I'm going to do about that. So we'll see. I'll see you later.